Feels better, doesn't it? Feels better. Norwich City have recorded their first championship win of the season here this afternoon at CBS Arena. The lawnmower's going, the celebrations were flowing, and Norwich City will be very, very pleasantly pleased with their afternoon's work here in the Midlands. It was a really good day. I think spoke to Angus Gunn afterwards, spoke to Kenny McLean. I think the feeling that, and certainly if you've watched his verdicts I've had, and I think probably the fans have had, and Johannes has had, and the players has had, is that it has been growing to this. The two home performances where over the piece, I think Norwich probably performed better than they did here today. But when it's all very well and good building, but then to go 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games without a win can become very difficult to retain that buy-in. So it feels like a major result in terms of what Norwich City are trying to do, what Johannes Torp is trying to do, and the way they went about it as well, I think is incredibly encouraging. So a massive win, first and foremost, for Norwich City. They're first of the season, no denying it. And I think it will make everybody probably breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. The fact it's coincided, of course, with the transfer window ending, that everyone has absolute clarity and certainty about what the next few months look like, I think will aid everybody. So, yeah, there's a lot of good feeling in certainly in that way and post game, but certainly in that dressing room as well, coming out afterwards. And I think it's hard not to have a smile on your face with what Norwich City have produced today, because it was a good performance. And Mark Robbins felt they deserved to win. Johannes Torp felt they deserved to win, and I probably feel they edged it, and that they deserved to get the points that they got today, actually, in terms of their performance. So, yeah, look, I think ultimately everyone should be very, very, very pleased. But let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Johannes Torp named an unchanged team. Forson did start, and I was at Selhurst Park. There were plenty of other people who would have been as well. I think if you'd have told any of us after that evening at Selhurst Park that he would start today, I think we all probably wouldn't have believed you. But that was the case. I think he was up and ready to go about 24 hours after it happened, and was rubbing his hands here. All right, I'm ready to play 90 again. He played. Cianach played on the right, and I mentioned those two players because I thought they had a difficult first half, and loose touch. I actually think with Forson there's a little bit of a technical point, and look, I'm not a coach, so it's not maybe something for me to coach him, but felt to me at points that he was just a little bit too flat receiving the ball and needs to be a bit more on the half turn, which would probably then have allowed him to get a little bit more spring. He was nudged off the ball easily, and then some of what he was trying, and there's a very talented player in there. We've seen it already in his Norwich City career, but it just felt rushed and felt lacked a little bit of quality and a little bit of precision in terms of his final moment and trying to get players in, and took a touch when probably he could play first time, and tried to play when he could have taken a touch. And we're seeing that. Just I don't know what happened, whether he put his boots on the wrong way or whether I don't know, but he lost the ball. I'd have to look it up, but it felt like a considerable number of times, and that put Norwich in real difficulty with the amount of turnovers and that lack of quality. And ultimately, I've said it before, but when you play the style of football that Norwich are trying to play, you're only as good as the players' ability to A, handle the ball, but B, there's got to be an intelligence. I think this is maybe a point that gets lost, because we can talk about possession-based football and we can talk about technical proficiency, but you need to have an intelligence with it, a game intelligence, a football intelligence, an ability to know when to handle it into tight areas, when to bounce, when to move. And they probably lacked a little bit of that in the first half, and that inability to make the right decision on all areas of the pitch, probably more critical areas of the pitch. There's a moment where Cianach lost it on the edge of the penalty area here. He lost it just in the half here. And there were 2 moments that really created positive openings for Coventry, because Norwich were quite disorganised and unsettled. And that then probably makes the team a little bit more unsettled, to be honest. And the first half, I felt Norwich were okay. It was quite a pretty poor game. It was intense. It was manic. It was frantic. Both teams were sort of making pretty cheap concessions without really constructing opportunities. I thought Coventry had the best chance of the first half when Ellis Sims, I think, got in behind, and I think it was Doyle, the defender. There was a Norwich defender who just did enough to unsettle him and just nudge him away, and the finish was really poor past Angus Gunn. But that was really the biggest moment. Shane Duffy had a glancing header from a corner, but beyond that, Norwich didn't create too much. And then I think, and this is where I think Johannes Torp has to take a lot of praise today. He made a very brave half-time substitution. Anis Ben Slimani, who's been in the building, less than 24 hours officially, I think. Slightly longer now, but certainly probably at the point he came on. And Oscar Schwartau came on as well. And I think, and this was a point I think that was kind of made throughout, really. But when you have a new head coach and you can sort of point it to a lot of different areas. I remember Paul Lambert bringing in a lot of players from Colchester, for example. Daniel Farker, probably a different example. Even Alex Neil, but Tony Andrew. We could have a discussion and conversation about that. But I think when you're a new coach transitioning to something, it's going to help Norwich get to that process a hell of a lot quicker, to have players who are familiar with or have been in systems before whereby they are used to fulfilling the duties that are being asked of them. I think in Slimani, I said it, I don't know if it was the last verdict or the verdict before, that I felt Norwich were lacking a little bit of a presence. He brings that and then some. Who's neat and tidy and dynamic as well. And there was probably my favourite moment of all of what was a pretty solid, impressive performance was towards the end, where Coventry had a break and he was, again, I speak about that game awareness, that intelligence that's so important, I think, to what Torop wants to do. He just absolutely clattered someone, took the yellow card, stopped the attack, killed the momentum. And it was such a good decision at that period of the game. But more generally, I thought he looked very press resistant, but equally was very good at breaking up the play and getting Norwich playing in better areas. But the introduction of both of those players, Shorthow on the right, who takes the ball in so wonderfully, that first touch is excellent, and he's one of these players that seems to glide through games, and he's quite aesthetic to watch, actually, because he's got a kind of natural ability with the ball, a natural technical ability in the ball. I think there's going to be a need. He's 18 years of age, for goodness sake. There's going to be a need for sort of physical improvement and tactical improvement within that. But I think it's no coincidence that those two players were just dropped in and was right, sleeves up and off you go. And they really helped. I felt Norwich establish what was in the 25 minutes after the second half. Norwich were outstanding in terms of their control of the game, what they were doing possession wise. I don't think Coventry really got near them. I thought they were able then, with Slimani's introduction, after what was probably physically a pretty difficult first half with Torp and Eccles, who were two very good players. I felt Coventry missed Ben Sheaf in there, but it just allowed them to get control of the centre of the pitch. And it meant that suddenly those spells of possession that were probably ending, if we're being brutally honest, with Sienach and Forson in the first half, they were being maintained. And that allowed Norwich then to get up the pitch and get into Coventry's half and really suffocate the game and play in the type of areas that they want to play, not deep building in their third. They want to be pushing up and playing in Coventry's third. And when you've got two players who can take the ball in, who can handle it, who are press resistant, who are just happy to bounce but can physically compete as well, I think it really makes a big difference to what Norwich City are trying to do under Johannes Hoftorp. And I think what we've seen in all of the games so far is just little bits, little sprinklings of what he wants to drop into this team. And it was a brave substitution, double substitution to make, I think, but really impactful. And that enabled Norwich to get up the pitch and obviously score the goal that they did, which comes from Jack Stacey on the right after a pretty decent spell of possession. His cross is then headed to Sainz. A little bit of luck with the fact that the cross got headed to Sainz, but equally then took a deflection into the back of the net. But I thought Norwich were deserving of that in terms of territory and in terms of their play. Yes, I think there is an acceptance still that in terms of creativity, they're not quite there yet. They still haven't converted the amount of possession that they've had in terms of on the pitch into real clear-cut opportunities. They only have one shot on target here this afternoon. But actually, I think, and this again was kind of documented by Shorthow and Slimani a little bit, Johannes Hoftorp's system is designed to make players uncomfortable. They're taking on a lot of information, and I just tried to describe this on the podcast last week. It's a little bit like, you can see them thinking about things because it's slightly different. When the ball's in, let's say the ball's with Jack Stacey on the right, every player has a specific position to take up. And you can see that the gears grinding as naturally they would to try and take up some of those positions. I think with Slimani and Shorthow in the second half, it felt more effortless. It felt more innate, more natural, probably, what they were trying to do. And it's just about getting Norwich's other players into that. And I think that probably underlines and underpins all of this. For all of the noise and conjecture throughout the transfer window and players wanting out, this now does feel like a team that is buying in and a team that is building and a team that is improving. And that's where getting results is so important, because it will consolidate to the players, but to the supporters as well, who are excellent, that actually what they're trying to do in terms of putting them into that positions, they're doing that because it brings success. They're not doing that because they want players to feel uncomfortable. And I think it's really hard to be creative when you feel like you're trying to learn a new system and when you're trying to be when it almost feels like you're shackled in and you're part of a wider code. But equally, that wider code, when it becomes their intuition, that will help them become a lot more creative, I think. And it's the hardest part for any coach to then implement that attacking side. It's I always say, and I always think it's a lot easier for a coach to come in and shore up a back four and make a team look defensively solid. The hard bit is getting them to score goals, and the fact that Norwich are beginning now to show a lot more control in games, you hope naturally that will come with the production of more chances. So I'm probably not stood here today maybe as concerned about that. I think at the other end, though, what I would say is that Norwich defensively looked a lot more composed, a lot more solid. They were dogged at points, and it was a pragmatism. Again, I spoke about this last week, just subtle changes in terms of the press, in terms of obviously the double change that they made at half time, their ability to play in certain areas, how they utilised Jack Stacey in the first half against Jake Bidwell, and he struggled and eventually had to be taken off in that. And equally, there's a real dogged sense now that they don't want to concede. I think you can see that with what Jack Doyle and Shane Duffy, Callum Doyle, and Shane Duffy are producing as a back two. They're protecting Angus Gunn a lot better. And actually, beyond that chance in the first half, I thought Coventry really struggled to produce anything that forced Angus Gunn into a real save. So again, they probably controlled a little bit more without the ball today as well, which is really pleasing. So yeah, look, this wasn't, as I said, a better performance for me. I felt the Carrow Road performances, probably both of them, were better across the piece. I thought that 25 minutes in the second half is as good as we've seen Norwich City under Johannes Hoftorp in terms of what he wants: control, possession, really suffocating the game. I thought they were excellent, and that was the period ultimately where this game was won. They had to defend late on, but they never felt panicked particularly. I thought they showed a lot of control. There were a couple of times where Angus Gunn punched. There was one punch in particular which was superb in the second half. Those catches, they defended set pieces a lot better. And that's been probably a major Achilles heel over the first few weeks. We think back to Blackburn and the goals they conceded. This was actually significantly better. They didn't allow Coventry, beyond that Sims chance, huge amounts in terms of real clear-cut moments to get shots on their goal. And equally, as I said, they're probably not producing the level that you would like at the other end. But it does feel, I think, watching this team, that there is some foundations being laid. There is a style, but equally there's a mentality growing. And I think you could see that, saying Johannes Hoftorp spoke about it post-game. There was a real willingness to win this game. And yes, they had to drop deep and they had to take some blows at points and they had to roll with the punches for to an extent. But I don't mind that. I think it builds that togetherness and character within this group. And again, you put today's performance and the way they fought compared to their last league away game, which was Oxford United, just chalk and cheese. And I think it's a real testament to the growth that Norwich are producing at the moment. And I think, as I've said before, I'm always more into looking at performances because I think long term they provide a lot more sustainability. But I did feel it was important, if possible, that Norwich City won this game because of what I said. Because it's all very well and good talking about performances and talking about how well you play, and over a long term, absolutely. But equally, you have to get results alongside that because it helps them build up in fans' minds, in everyone's minds, that actually things are moving in the right direction. I have to say, I thought Coventry were poor. I was expecting more from them today. There was Mark Robbins said it, to be fair, in his assessment. They looked really disjointed. I don't know what that is down to or what the cause of that is, but they were sloppy in possession. They in the period where Norwich took control, I thought Norwich actually just looked like the team that was more aggressive, that was more showed a greater will to win this contest. They were more full-blooded in terms of their approach. And Coventry never really responded to Norwich taking control. Of course, they're at home. They were pushing for a winner. But for the attacking depth they've got, and they look like a team that's got a lot more attacking depth today than they did when we came here last year. Just felt they lacked a little bit of a punch. And it looked quite individual today rather than the team. With the acceptance, I think that Ben Sheaf was a massive miss. But yeah, look, from a Norwich perspective, this does feel like a big result in terms of what Johannes Hoftorp is trying to do at Glenn Riddlesholme as well. It felt like a real introduction for them. And I think two things have happened in the last 24 hours. The window's closed and they've won this game. And I think all of that will breed clarity, certainty, and I think it will help with the mood. It's probably been a little bit costly for Norwich to keep players around the place for a little bit too long who didn't want to be here. They're now gone. There's sort of no excuses now, and now it's about almost attacking it with the group that you have, even if that's a little bit short in some areas. But I think they've shown today, I think Coventry will be a very good team in the Championship this year, as they always are under Mark Robbins. They tend to have a little bit of a slow start, but they'll be in and around the top six. And Norwich have come to a very tough place today and won. And yeah, I thought thoroughly deserving of that as well. And largely, I think, down to the head coach's decision at half-time to make two really proactive, intelligent decisions, coupled with obviously the performances of those players. And yeah, it's a good night for everyone, I think, and it goes right back to the heart of what I was saying at the start. So much of what Norwich will do, yes, is about technical proficiency. Yes, it's about players who can make things happen in attacking areas. Yes, it's about creating chances that maybe look quite similar, but equally, it's about having players who are intelligent enough to read game situations, but also to carry out instructions. And it's quite a complex system that Johannes Hoftorp has them playing. So, look, did I think Norwich were outstanding today? No. Did I think they deserved to win? I thought they probably edged it. Yeah, I thought they probably edged it. And I think Coventry will be frustrated that they weren't able to ask more questions, particularly in a first half where Norwich conceded possession, didn't settle. And transitionally, there was a lot of joy for them. They didn't really stretch Norwich in behind probably as much as they would like. So, yeah, but that 25 minutes after second half, absolutely outstanding. Plenty more analysis, plenty more reaction over at pinkham.com. But yeah, massive win. So delighted for the 1,600 Norwich fans who made the travel. They were in brilliant voice. And yeah, a couple of points. Slimani really good. Callum Toyle's excellent. Yeah, really just an excellent footballer. And Swartow as well. I think there's a lot of good stuff from him. Really, just one of these players. So you sort of, you sort of shuffle to the edge of your seat a little bit every time he picks up possession. There's feels like a player there who's going to really grow over the season. So and maybe that feels like the best place to end it. It's a performance matched by a result today. I think that people can take a lot of encouragement from in patches, with obviously the respect and the knowledge that there's more to come as well. From the CBS Arena, another win here. Another win here. Yeah, I think Norwich are unbeaten here in about 9 games or something ridiculous, and it's quite rare for Norwich to have that record at an away grounds. But yeah, I think hopefully happy faces. Good trip home. It's not too long, and yeah, I hope you all enjoy your international break. We'll see you the other side against Swansea. Yeah, and I'm off for a lay down in a very dark room after the last few months. See you soon.